Okay. Welcome everyone. My name is Pier Washpon. I use pronouns she, her. I am the Youth Leadership Council Program Evaluator at GreenThumb, the division of parks that works with community gardens across New York City. I'm here tonight to present in partnership with the Brotherhood Sister Soul Youth. I'm going to introduce them. Hello, everyone. Kirtia. Thank you for joining us. We are hosting this webinar, Empowering Youth in Gardens in Spanish. We ask that you stay muted throughout the presentation. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to introduce the Brotherhood Sister Soul organization. BROSIS, for short, was founded in 1995, and it provides a comprehensive, holistic, and long-term support services to youth who range in age from 8 to 22. The organization focuses on issues such as leadership development, educational achievement, sexual responsibility, sexism and misogyny, political education and social justice, Pan-Africanism, and Latinx history, as well as global awareness. BROSIS provides 4 6-year rites of passage programming through 5-day-a-week after-school care and home counseling, summer camps, job training and employment, college preparation, community organizing, training, and international study programs abroad in Africa, the Caribbean, and South America. Today, youth and alumni from the environmental program at the Brotherhood Sister Soul will be facilitating a workshop for youth empowerment in gardens. I'd like to start by just going around again and saying their names. Janaira, Janaira Ramirez, hello. Koemi, Pena, hello. Amorisa, Salgado, hi. And Kirtia, Spence. Welcome. So feel free to unmute yourselves and begin presenting. I'm passing it over to you.
Thank you. And I'm going to share my screen as well. Yeah, as Pier mentioned, we're some of the youth from the Brother Sister Soul, and we're specifically part of the environmental program. It's called Gaia Renaissance. So today's workshop will be on how do we think youth empowerment works in gardens, and what aspects we think that any youth programming that's engaging young people in garden education should include. So share my screen, give me 1 second. Okay. And then I would just ask the youth to unmute themselves and introduce themselves briefly again. Whatever order.
Hi, my name is Amorisa Salgado. I joined Gaia this year, and yeah.
Hello, my name is Kirtia Spence. I'm also youth at the Brotherhood Sister Soul in the environmental program.
Hi, my name is Koemi Pena, and I'm also part of the environmental program at Brotherhood Sister Soul.
So our specific program takes care of the Frank White Memorial Garden, which is next to our program home. And this is where a lot of our programming and workshops mainly take place. But we do volunteer and help out with different gardens. And we'll just begin our presentation. There. So when working with teenagers, having a teen-friendly space is very important. And we wanted to post some questions to the audience to write in the chat. That way we can discuss some aspects of what makes any space a teen-friendly space. So our first question is, what are some physical teen-friendly spaces? And anything that comes to mind, we're just creating like a brainstorming cloud. Just feel free to write it into the chat. And if Lillian can read some of the responses, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, we have here shady benches, listening to each other. Some parks and community gardens raise benches, state parks.
Thank you. And some of our youth, yeah, you can go ahead, Koemi.
Sorry, I was just looking at the chat. So yeah, so these are some great ideas. So from a teen's perspective, seeing the shady bench is a good thing because it's, you know, comfortable and people actually the teens we're lazy, so we like to sit down. Listening to each other, yeah, that's pretty good. When it comes to parks, yes, because of nature, and, you know, we like to just take it in. And it's nice to like take pictures and stuff like that. Oh yes, boba tea, perfect, right on the dot. And yeah, skate parks, that's pretty cool too.
Thank you. And yeah, somebody else added colorful and full of wonder and engagement as well. Thank you for your responses. And yeah, we are expecting our workshop to be pretty interactive. So there'll be some points where you can unmute yourselves and then other points where you just write in the chat. So our second question is, what are some emotional teen-friendly activities? And same cue, feel free to write in the chat and we can read them out loud.
We have here playing games, meditations. Listening to music. Sports.
Thank you. Kirtia, you can.
When talking about emotional teen-friendly activities, I think the suggestions we receive are really good because ultimately we want to be de-stressed in a sense because school and maybe other factors within our houses or stuff like that can make us stressed out and maybe not make us emotionally aware of what we're going through or make us like kind of shut off to the world. So when we do things like playing games or doing meditation, listening to music and playing sports, it can it could give us some way to release what we can't actually verbalize in a sense. So yeah, I think those were really good responses.
Thank you. And our last question in this section is, what are some ideas that that are teen friendly focused, that will increase youth engagement, participation, and their commitment to the programming as well. And yeah, feel free to write your answers in the chat again.
We have one here painting murals, which is pretty fun. I'll add one just in case people. Those in arts and craft, building like birdhouses, jump rope is another one. Making something together, participating along with friends.
Yeah, I think those are all really good ideas. I especially like the murals because in our garden we have murals. And food and snacks definitely is a big motivator for teenagers to engage and participate.
Thank you all.
And some,
Sorry. Thank you all for your responses. And yeah, they're the last ones around teamwork and cooking together, which is also part of what we do in the garden, especially with the food justice team. But we'll share about that more in a second. And I was wondering if you wanted to elaborate on any of the other ones that are just coming in.
Somebody said that their girls like to go on Skype with friends while watching anime and playing games. And yeah, a lot of the kids in Brosis, like they're friends outside of the program too, so they still have contact and, you know, like they just all have fun together collectively. So yeah, we do that too.
Thank you all for your responses. So we asked the same question to our youth at the Brother Sister Soul, and this were some of their responses. They came up with libraries, parks, and other natural spaces, Brosis itself, and the garden as some of them for physical teen-friendly spaces.
Yeah, so when they first asked us this, we wanted to think of what makes us feel like welcome, what makes us feel like, yeah, I want to join or like walk in. And so we thought of libraries because public libraries, well, the one that's in Harlem, they have a teen, like a teen level where it's only just for teens, and they have a lot of like fun, and they have nice couches, and like it's just a nice place to just relax, do homework, and like kind of just chill. And then as many of you said in the chat, parks and other natural spaces, yeah, it's a nice place to take pictures. So a bunch of people are obviously going to show up there. And then we also said Brosis just because it's very welcoming, and the energy that you feel when you get here, it's like, wow, I want to stay here forever. And then also gardens, same thing with taking pictures, especially if the gardens are like big and then you see nice little birds on the tree, like it's just a beautiful picture.
So for emotional teen-friendly activities, I kind of tied both youth-related topics and open-minded facilitators together because in a sense, like, some people may not have that safe space in which they can probably go to their parents or a loved one and talk about things that they're dealing within themselves or how to respond to some of the things they're feeling emotionally. So when they are able to have these kind of discussions with people who are just like them or, you know, around the same age as them, or even go to someone who's older than them who can provide guidance, it's better for them to be able to emotionally grow and see their mistakes without being condemned for being a human in a sense. Also, when you allow teens to have like input on how like a facility is kind of like monitored or kind of like set up, it helps them feel more comfortable in that space because they know that they got a say in what happened. You know, it wasn't like decided for them, or it got decided for them and it wasn't comfortable, or they have to kind of conform in yet again another space in a sense. And organic bonding is so important because when you're forced to be with somebody else, it creates a strenuous bond, and which won't last, you know. So you want to make sure, kind of like a plant, you know, you want to make sure that you have all the materials to let the plant grow, because if you confine it or restrict it to some kind of like condemned space, it won't have the materials it needs to grow, to be a plant, to have its full potential in a sense.
So kind of going off of what Kirtia said, our facilitators ground themselves equally to youth. So they really try to see things through our eyes, and they look back to when they were our age. And, you know, they kind of just put themselves in our shoes and make sure that we're all feeling equal, that it's not like a power problem, that we're all on the same level, and that everybody gets respect regardless of position or age. And we really focus on having fun colors around the space. If you walk into the office, like, it's really nicely decorated. Everybody has their own like desk ornaments and whatever. Like, it just looks so cute. And I feel like it's important to have a lot of colors in a space where you're working, because otherwise it feels too like medical. It feels forced. So when it's colorful, you can like relax a little bit better. And personally, I really like that. And then we have a subtle educational component, because nobody wants to go 8 hours in school and then feel like they're in school again. So we do teach, but we basically teach so that you want to learn rather than you feel like you're forced to learn. And we do it in a way where kids come back like eager to learn.
We also have some nice, we also have some nice attributes as emotional friendly spaces. So like the first two you see here are like food and colorful. So these are like things that attract the youth. So like I personally said food myself because I like to eat. I know everybody else likes to eat. And so we always have the option into deciding what type of food we want to eat whenever we arrive at Brosis. And so knowing that you're going to get food as a reward at the end of the day, it's like, wow, I definitely have to keep coming back. And then also the environment is also very colorful. Like you see colors like red, yellow, or blue, like those nice pop out colors. It's not like a nice dull gray, like those neutral colors, because you end up feeling neutral and don't really want to come back into that space because it's not positive, it's neutral.
Adding on to what Koemi said, meeting people in a positive environment is so important, because me as a teenager, sometimes I feel like a lot of people are quicker to point out my flaws rather than, you know, my growths or like how I've improved as a person. But when I go to Brosis or like somewhere where it's very positive, I get respectful criticism, or, you know, I feel like my accomplishments or are appreciated, or like, you know, they're not undermined because of other flaws that I may have, you know. So I feel like that's very important, because some people may need that extra boost, may need that, you know, may need a reason to keep on going in a sense. And when they have like a comfortable environment where it's also positive, it also adds to them also finding somewhere that they can express themselves in their truest form and understand themselves better, you know, and take lessons and reflect on that in a sense.
And lastly, Brosis is a safe space physically and emotionally. Physically, it's a good place to get kids like off the street. And I know that not everybody has a good home life, so this is another way where you can go make like a second family kind of, and you'll be welcome no matter what. And there's food, there's, like just a community. And emotionally as well, it's a community because people are always there to listen. They'll always lend an ear no matter what you want to talk about, whether it's school or friends or relationships. Like they're always there to listen. And it's just overall a really safe place.
Thank you. So as we mentioned, we are part of Gaia Renaissance, which is the environmental program. It's just called Gaia Renaissance. And we have three core groups. So food empowerment, sustainable designs and waste management, and horticultural sciences. And we divide the youth into those groups throughout the year, and then they set out like their work plan for the year, including the summer months where they work Monday through Friday in the garden as well. So these are some pictures of our program. And yeah, and I'm an alum of the program. I graduated when I was in 2014. And we do a lot of mostly garden work, but we do engage in some other like activities. This is some of our youth at the Climate March in 2018, I think. This was downtown. We also think it's really important to explore like different horizons and make sure that the youth are also like learning different things outside of garden work and outside of environmental work, because a lot of them join when they're, for example, Kirtia and Koemi joined when they were in 7th grade, and it's important for them to like figure out what they want to explore and then naturally choose their path. So this is a youth, I believe they were going to see a theater play at the time. So not all of our programming revolves around garden work or environmental related work. We have like activities that are outside of that as well, just so that the youth are expanding their horizons and exposed to different things, especially like with, like the New York City public school system. A lot of the times these are activities that the students can't really experience in school. So we have this and emphasize that this is like part of their curriculum process. We go to the beach a lot in the summer. The youth like to go to the beach. We like to go to the beach, and it's nice to collect like just random things we find and come back and paint them or like use them as like mosaic pieces in the garden as well. And this is our youth-led farmers market. The youth operate the market, and they're pretty much in charge of like the everyday logistics of it. And this is a couple of our youth who are selling and also doing a cooking demonstration. And Koemi is in the food empowerment group, so she can share a little bit more about that group.
Yeah, so we have a farmers market here. It's around during the summertime and a little bit towards the fall, like before Thanksgiving gets here. And we usually do food demos to show how you can use different types of produce that we have at our market. Because some people come without knowing, hey, what can I use this for? Or how do you eat this? And we kind of show them what are different recipes they could use in the house, so that way they don't just keep buying the same type of stuff they would normally buy at the supermarket, but they could buy new things and learn how to benefit themselves and their families.
This is another trip. I don't exactly remember where this was. I mean, it's like downtown. I just don't know. My geography is pretty bad. So it looks like Ellis Island because it's across from Statue of Liberty, but I don't know if it is. It might be Staten Island. But this is just another picture of another trip that our youth went on. Okay. So this is part where we'll be breaking off into groups in a couple minutes, and we wanted to highlight some of the components that we are hoping that you'd like to take away from this workshop, which is like how to approach working with youth in gardens with a youth lens. And here are some of the attributes that we believe need to be part of that. So first one is family. And
Yes. So we have family as one of our youth ones because it's a nice thing to have another sense of family, especially if like some teams tend to have like a broken home. And so coming to another space in which they have a sense of family where it's not just people that are older than them, but also people their own age. Like in this very picture, it's me and two friends of mine that I brought to Brosis, and they explored their own horizons and found new friends. But like, it's the same. We all tend to come together at the end of the day and just feels like a whole new family that I could totally relate to, and they have the same type of experience that I would have.
For me, I feel like projects, like when I first started in 7th grade, I feel like a lot of the times I was very, like, I didn't want to do any projects. I didn't really want to get my hands in the dirt. And now seeing me in 12th grade, wanting to always do projects, like always asking Brosis facilitators, what can I do next, or what else there is to do, or having certain projects that I actually want to do is so interesting because I recognize that growth in myself, and also like how much I've learned from doing just a basic activity like taking planks and moving them somewhere else, like I feel like projects are very important, and they're also very informative, especially when you're dealing with, the environment, because we all, we live on Earth. So yeah, I feel like it's interactive and fun while being informative, which is also important because you don't want like, you kind of don't want someone to be bored or like kind of be like rejecting projects. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
did you want to share about the summer you built the compost bin with Nando?
Oh yeah. So my first summer working with Brosis, I built a compost bin, and it was very interesting because I never really knew the process of composting until I actually started making the bin and then making the compost to go in the bin and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a great experience for me personally.
And kind of going off of what Kirtia said, where we focus on having fun. Basically, we just don't want anything to be forced, and everyone is kind of, they have a chance to actually enjoy themselves and get outside and breathe fresh air and go on trips and do projects. It's just a chance to get out of the house and actually do something productive while also enjoying yourself, making friends, making family. Overall, it's just a good experience.
This here is one of our favorite activities. We have this like beam, and we ask our youth a lot of the times to just line up on it, depending on, by order of birth, or like birthdays, or height, or any just chronological order. And it's pretty fun because they're not supposed to talk while they do it. They're supposed to figure out like what other ways to communicate with each other, and then move along, and they can't like also just get off of it. So it's usually like just fun for us. And we also think that having independence and freedom and allowing the youth to like grow and feel like they have independence and freedom and step into that is really important, especially if maybe at home they don't feel like they're very, like they have a lot of independence or a lot of freedom, or if like they have to like share space with a lot of like family members or siblings. It's important to like give them a space that feels truly like their own and that they can own. This part of this is also providing jobs for youth and paying them for their time, and it allows them to like earn income and like, you know, buy the things that they want or need. This is pretty important, especially like as we work with like a lot of like Black and brown low-income youth, and a lot of them do live nearby or in like in the nearby neighborhoods, but a lot of them don't, so they would, you know, have to travel from Brooklyn or from like the Bronx to Harlem, and this just like allows them to be able to like move through the city and have the financial means to do so as well. And the independence piece is pretty important as well, because we want them to like just step into their like I said, like just step into their power, but also feel that they are like an individual and like a self-actualized individual, instead of like Amorisa mentioned, like someone that's like being talked down on or like that's being dismissed because they're just a young person. Like their experiences are just as valid as any other experience, and it's important for us to emphasize that. And so some more trips to the beach. And this is also pretty important when we go on trips, to just to like allow them to just have alone time and like self-reflect and just bond, instead of having like something structured each time. This is Kirtia hanging out at the beach.
Somebody asked, is the social component and being outside a more important aspect than the gardening? And I wanted to answer that real quick. I'm sorry, but I feel like, in a sense, I'm so sorry. I keep saying that. I feel like the gardening part is important, but I feel like if we're looking at Brosis as a whole, I feel like the social component, like within interacting with other youth, is a very important factor for us, because we want to know how to be well versed in certain topics, and kind of like be experienced with communicating. Like for me personally, I have social anxiety, so I had to learn how to grow out of that, in a sense, how to grow out of that, and working with like the social component and the gardening aspect kind of work together, because you can't really walk around in the garden without asking or talking to the nearest person, maybe because you don't understand how something works or what next steps to take. And I feel like they work hand in hand. Like there's not one that's like more important than the other, because they all work together. And yeah, you can't like leverage that, if that makes sense.
Thanks for that, Kirtia. Yeah, I completely agree. I think the gardening a lot of the times is a tool to get the youth to bond with each other over, like we mentioned, having a common project. And these are just more pictures. And then feel free to just share a little bit about your experience with the environmental program in Brosis as I just go through the pictures.
Okay, so I'll just speak really quick about this picture. So that was a day we went to, I forgot exactly what it was, but it was a place in Brooklyn that had to do with like, we were talking about waste. I think they were showing us, not showing us, but it was something had to do with like landfills or something like that. And it was in Brooklyn, and it was super snowy. And we were coming back from the trip, and as you can see there, that's literally all the people that went on that trip. Like there were still little of us, but I feel like when there's our program, the environmental program, isn't that big. So I feel like this, if it's the right amount, you get to bond even more with a certain, like that certain area. Like usually at school or at home, you have teams have their own like inner small groups, like it contains like 2 or 3 people. But then in a group like this, it gets a little bit, their circle becomes a little bit more bigger, and they become more trusting. But with trusting, they know who exactly to trust. And so with this group, the circle becomes from 2 people to 5 people. And like eventually you find the perfect amount in which you're able to like actually express yourself truly without being ashamed or embarrassed to say what you feel.
I think, I mean, I wasn't here for this, but I think this is at the GreenThumb conference maybe a year or two ago. Remember.
I could talk about this picture. This is just a picture of youth working in the garden, and this summer, Koemi actually invited me to join the summer internship, and I joined, and we were working in the garden every day from Monday to Friday. Oh, Gabe says it was from the United Nations, the last photo. Sorry. But yeah, I got to work in the garden this year for the first time, and right from like the jump, everyone was really welcoming. I learned a lot about plants that I would have never imagined that I could have learned living in such a urban setting. And I never thought I would be able to like actually like plant stuff, especially since where I lived, but I did, and yeah, it was just really fun.
These, I remember this summer I worked with this group of youth. We had, this is just like another game. We paint like a lot of the countries that our youth come from on these just reusable wood planks and just nail them to just old tires and have like games that the youth can play. That's kind of like a lot of what our garden is composed of and looks like. It's a lot of like reused materials that we just put together to like make fun games or, you know, reuse for actual gardening or like build any of the structures. I think that that's particularly important and fun because that's when I was a sophomore in high school. That's how I joined the program. I had a bunch of Arizona bottles, like dollar Arizona bottles that I wanted to make into like an art piece. And I was part of ROSIS already at the time. I was part of the Liberation program, which is our community organizing program. But I mean, it's a community organizing program and I wanted to do something with art. So, and with this like recyclable, with these old materials. And I was collecting, I think I took a month to collect all the Arizona bottles from all of my friends in high school. And then I brought them to Nando, who's our main facilitator. And I wanted to like just cut them up and make them into some art piece. And he suggested that I should make them into hanging planters. So then we just cut them up and made them into like little planters and put actual seeds in them and then put them around the brownstone. We used to work out of a brownstone. Now we're in transitioning in a transition from our space, but it's right next to it, it's a brownstone. And then the next couple months I would come into the brownstone and like go to programming, go to session, but see like the planters that I made hanging on the windows. And it's like, feels really nice because it's like, it's your work that's like being displayed as if it's like, you know, in your parents' fridge, but it's like all over like the space that you also feel like it's your second home. And then for this next session, we'll break out into groups for a group challenge, and we will have about 15 minutes in these small groups, and each of the youth will be a facilitator in one of them. Oh, but before we get there, this is what our garden used to look like before the environmental program. This is not what it looks like now. This is what it looked like maybe maybe a little more than 5 years ago. We just don't have a new picture. But right now, there's a gazebo in the middle that our youth built maybe in 2016. And then we're like constructing a new greenhouse at the moment right now. It's just been really slow because of the snow. And then we have a shed in the back too. So the back looks very different, but this piece of the garden looks really accurate. And it's also one of my friends. A lot of like my friends now are still people that I joined the environmental program with. And the summer before I joined, he was telling me the story of having to like redo the entire path because it used to be sand and it used to get like all muddy. I mean, it used to be mud and it used to get all muddy. So like putting sand down, putting gravel down and making sure like there was a new path. And then I think 2 years before that, another group of youth built the entire gazebo out of just like old planks of wood, which took the entire summer. But it's like really nice because you come back to a space and feel like there's ownership there, and like you're tied to that space emotionally because you built something that's still there. And it's like just pretty fulfilling.